Thank you very much for allowing me to do this. I'm really happy that you agreed to record this podcast, interview, discussion, whatever this is. Maybe I'll just start quickly by introducing you to everyone. You're Starpilot33. You are the person that recorded the audio for the spaceship video that was, when was that, 2-3 months ago?
Yeah, I think it was like in April or May or something like that, a couple months ago.
Yeah, it must have been then. Maybe I'll just say the reason why we're talking together. So I talk to a lot of people on a regular basis. I would say in thousands at the moment. It used to be hundreds, it's thousands now. And out of all those people, I found you to have the most similar experiences to mine. I'm not saying that people are not experiencing what we're experiencing. I'm just saying that ours are very similar. Maybe you can tell everyone, what is it that made you contact me? Because you approached me, if I remember correctly.
Right. I'd found some of your earlier videos, some of the first ones that you put up. And what you were describing was, again, very, very similar to what I had experienced. And like you, I had searched the internet for information, especially about machine elves, and there was just nothing there. So when I stumbled upon one of your videos and you were specifically talking about machine elves and in a way that was exactly what I had seen and experienced, I thought I have to reach out and just ask that question. And I think I just sent you a quick message and said, hey, have you ever seen any spaceships? And that's what started it.
Do you remember, was it, because I think it was at the beginning of me starting the 434 account, that was, I think it was February, if I remember correctly. And back then, I'm saying this because back then I was so excited that people actually have the same experiences as me, because up to that point, I thought I was the only one. It took me a while to find Terence McKenna's descriptions of machine elves, and that's what I started using this phrase. But how long have you been in touch with them?
Pretty much from almost the very first time I ever did magic mushrooms. I think the very first time I did, it wasn't necessarily machine elves that I saw. It was more, I call them the doctors. These spirits that they're similar to machine elves, but they're a lot goofier looking. But they basically fix you. They took a look at me after how many years I'd been on the planet, and this was my first trip over there. And they basically said, "Wow, we got a lot of work to do." The machine elves, as you described them, I think I was in touch with them on the second mushroom journey that I went on, and from then it's been very consistent every time. They're my guides throughout the entire experience, and I've never had a mushroom trip without them.
Right. Yeah, it's the same for me, because people very often ask me, at what point do you actually start getting in contact with them along your psychedelic journey? And I said, it's difficult for me to explain this to you, because the first moment I took mushrooms, that was the moment when I had contact with them. And at that time, I didn't even know that something like this exists. First of all, I didn't believe in what I was experiencing. I thought it's just a product of my imagination. It's just my brain hallucinating, which is funny because I don't hallucinate on mushrooms. I never get any hallucinations. I just basically see sharper colors, like nothing happens. And then when I close my eyes, the whole world opens of, different dimensions and entities. It's like everything's inside of my brain. It's nothing outside. How does it look? What does it look like for you when you talk to them?
Well, like what you were just saying about when your eyes are open, I'm just getting patterns and visuals. Doesn't matter what dosage I'm on, and it's when I close my eyes. That's where everything happens. Although I have seen machine elves and entities with my eyes open very rarely. I can count maybe 2 times where I could physically see them. The rest of the time it's with my eyes closed. And what they look like is, it's like a lot of the artwork, the fractal artwork that you see, where it's very suggestive of a person's face with eyes and a head, but then very fractal and mechanized. Your brain is telling you there's something machine-like about this, but it's hard to describe because they are fluid in their shape. They continually morph and change, and like you said, it's hard to look at them for a long period of time, and they tend to duck out of view if you really try to study them. Although some of them will come and take a good look at me. Like I've had them come right up and take a look at me.
Yeah.
study me. And sometimes I don't like that. Like I mentioned in the video that I just made on the Starpilot33 channel, that sometimes I get a questionable entity. Now, I'm not talking about a machine elf here. I'm talking about a lower kind of spirit that might be local to the area. I mean, I live in an area where there's a lot of ancient native history. And sometimes I will get something that feels like an ancient spirit that will come and just get right in my face, and I'll tell it to just piss off, and it'll go. And but that's not a machine elf. There's a difference. The machine
Yeah.
elves are
Yeah.
not. They're not threatening. They're not. They don't bully you or anything like that. They're all love, and they're all guidance.
Yeah, this is what I noticed recently. This is my recent discovery. I realized that I can distinguish now between two types of entity and my higher self. I always thought that the voice is just some sort of a divine entity, but now I'm starting to see differences. And I've noticed that there is the higher self where I don't get any visuals. I don't get any presence, any sense of presence, nothing like that. And I just hear a voice, or I have a telepathic upload to my brain of some sort of information. Then I have a machine elf that is clearly an entity where I see the form, the shape, where everything's very visual. And then I have something that you've just described, this sort of a feeling that there is a presence, that there is something, but it's not really the same as a machine elf, and they're usually negative. These are the ones that try to hide their form, their shape behind, I don't know, it's like they have some sort of a cloaking device. And I've started making distinction between all three of them. Is it the same
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah, very much so. I sort of gotten the feeling that when I do mushrooms, it's almost like I just put like a signal or like a bat signal into the sky, into the spiritual realm. So it's like announcing, hey, it's happening here, because things seem to be drawn to the location, and that's why I sage the house. That's why I do a lot of the preparation. But I think that other spirits in the area, other things, they do come around and check you out, and you have to be able to discern what you want in this room and what you don't, and tell it to get out of here if you don't like it. But yeah, you do learn that they're not all machine elves, that some of them are lower frequency, definitely,
Yeah.
of an entity.
Well, for me, it's a bit different because I enjoy being observed by them. I love when they appear, and they are as interested in me as I'm interested in them. I actually want to make a video about this, because they love experiencing our world through me. And I've had many people who said the same thing. I've heard people who said that they like looking at themselves at the mirror because they want to see themselves through the eyes of the entity. They like touching it's the same. I have exactly the same type of a sensation. Like when they say, "Can you eat something so we know what human food tastes like?" And they love sugar. This is something that really makes me laugh because I try to stay away from sugar, but they love sugar. And they always really enjoy me eating that. I always feel like a celebrity. I actually like when they want to know something about me, when they want to learn about humans. And I love their curiosity. When sometimes I have a problem, I want to talk to them about something. They go, "Oh, so tell us what it looks like." And they want me to recall a memory so that they can watch it like a movie. And then they don't really watch, they take part in it emotionally. And then
Yeah.
they say, "Oh, we get it now." And then they give me a perfect answer or solution to my problem, as if they were actually, as if it happened to them. Is this something that you've experienced before?
Yes, absolutely. I've noticed the same thing with their curiosity, and also their willingness to share. It's like they don't have property. They don't have this is mine and this is yours. If you express interest in something about them, they're willing to share. Like with the spaceships, they're like, you want to go drive it? Here, go for it. Knock yourself out. You want to learn more? We'll throw you in school. I mean, and then they want to know about me and my life the same way. They're interested in the cat, the animals. They want to know what that is. Touch the cat, and what does that feel like? And so I do. But yeah, they're like experiencing it through me.
That's really, really cool. And I'm always happy when people say that. At what point did you stop trying to convince yourself that you're crazy?
Oh, I never thought I was crazy through any of this. I really
You never
didn't.
question
No.
the validity of it? Okay.
No, because and like you said, I don't hallucinate. I'm a very logical person. I
Yeah,
mean,
the same with me. Exactly.
I'm a very analytical, logical person. I've come from a background of analytical thinking, and but yet I'm open. I'm a creative person too, so I'm open to that kind of angle on things. But I never ever did I do this and then wake up in the morning and think, oh my gosh, I'm going crazy. To me, it feels like it makes sense. When I do mushrooms, I'm thinking I want to go home and go meet my friends. I mean, it's like I feel like that's home to me because I'm my authentic self. Where over here, it almost feels like I'm wearing a mask all day long just to get around.
I thought for a long time that it's quite sad because I've just finished making a video about gifts. Machine elves like giving gifts, and I've explained the whole thing in the video. Now, I explained how psychedelics appeared in my life, and it was a gift from the queen of the insect world in another dimension. She said that she created circumstances and events that led to me taking ayahuasca and then magic mushrooms. And this is a very emotional story for me because I always get choked up when I describe it because it's so beautiful that she made it happen. And for me, the sad part always was that the world that I go to, psychedelics, is the world where I feel at home. And the entities I talk to, they allow me to have this sensation of closeness, love, and connection that I don't get in this reality. And for me, this is quite sad because if I could, I would just go and permanently live over there. That would be my address, Machine World Dimension, because it's so amazing. I'm so grateful that I have this opportunity to experience it. And that's why I'm such a big fan of psychedelics. But at the same time, it makes me feel sad that it feels as if I just gave up on this reality because the machine elf dimension is so amazing to experience that all I think about all day long is when will I get a chance to go back there? What are your thoughts on this?
I totally agree. One of the reasons why I was hesitant to try magic mushrooms in the first place was not because I was worried about going crazy or anything. As I was worried, what if I don't want to come back here? What if I see something that's so amazing that I don't want to come back here, and I want to be over there, and that kind of is the way it is. However, I just look at my life before I ever tried mushrooms, and I look at how empty that was, wishing that there was something else out there, and looking at the world and saying, this can't be all there is. There's got to be more. And now I know there is more, and that I can go anytime. Well, anytime they tell me it's time. Sometimes they say, hey, you're done for a while. We'll let you know when it's time to come back. And sometimes they say, come back again real soon. But at least it's there. And just knowing that it gives me hope.
Right? Exactly. This is like it makes, as if it was making your life not fuller, but more complete and happier. Because whatever problems I have of life in life now, I always have at the back of my mind just this thought. There's always this other reality that not only I can go to, but it's also the same reality we go to after dying. This is something I want to talk to you about because recently I get so many questions about explaining death. And the entities have been very secretive when it comes to this issue. There's one issue they don't really want to talk about because they said, in order for us to talk to you about this, we will need to use an example from your life, and you probably don't want this to happen to. And I said, no, let's not do this. But recently I came up with this idea that I can talk about some people who died in the past, and they were okay with this. So I started getting some answers. But while doing this, I started researching the NDE experiences. So people who had near-death experiences, I'm quite familiar with this because my mom went through this when I was 11, and at that time she was quite embarrassed. She didn't want to talk about this, as most people are. They don't know how to process all of this. It's a big thing. But I started reading about this, and now with YouTube we have so many reports of people coming back from that dimension. And what struck me recently is how similar these two dimensions are. I mean, these two, I don't know how many there are, but the ones that people experience on NDE not only look the same, they also meet the same entities, but they also get the same messages. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, that's very interesting you say that. And I've not had any discussions with the machine elves directly about death per se. But I have had a couple of instances where they were working on me, so to speak. They were looking inside and fixing things, and they said, we're going to have to just kind of stop you in time here for a minute, and it's going to feel like death, and then we're going to restart you again. But we need to work on. It's sort of like they need to unplug the battery of the car before they work on something.
Right.
And I really felt like I died for about, I don't know how long, a couple minutes, but I felt like I was dead. And then they restarted me again. They don't seem to view death at all as the end of anything. And I think inside we don't really think of it as the end of anything either. It's
Oh,
a
some people do.
Some people do, and I feel really bad for them. But
Yeah, me too.
when we were talking about like what exactly are we accessing when we do psychedelics, I was thinking about this, like what's the best way to think of this? I don't think that this is another universe or another reality or another anything. I think this is our reality, but I think this is the hidden backside. It's either like the flip side of the coin, or like if you've ever seen a tapestry and you look at the back of it and it's like a chaotic mess of strings. But the front side makes perfect logical sense, and that's us. We live in logic world on the front side, but on the back side is where everything happens. And I think when we do psychedelics, we're actually traveling to the backside of the tapestry of our reality. And
That's a good analogy.
that's where everything comes from. And if you manipulate any strings on the back, you're going to affect the picture on the front. So you can, for example, for depression, you can do every self-help book in the world and try every technique you can on the logical front side. It's not going to help you. But if you go to the back side and you find out what string is affecting that on the front, you're going to fix it in a very serious way. And that's how it worked for me. I mean,
Yeah,
instantly.
I find it fascinating because I find those confirmations of what we talk about in a lot of sources. So I find this in religious texts, in NDE experience, people with NDE experiences. The other area for me, one of my favorite ones, is the UFO fog. So people the researchers like Stephen Greer and so on, that's also fascinating for me because a lot of them, some of them are mediums, but a lot of them actually claim to have been abducted.
Mm-hmm.
And when they come back and they tell their stories, they're exactly the same as of people who came back from a psychedelic trip.
Yeah.
And one of those messages, and I don't remember who said that, they said that the reason the aliens don't want us to have nuclear weapons, and there's a long history of alien spaceships, UFOs, physically disabling nuclear rockets. There's even, I think, the Navy and the U.S. Army have a separate department for interaction with those entities. I think yesterday someone confirmed that yes, UFO interacting with our planes and our technology is real. I read it somewhere on the news. So it's
Yeah.
becoming, yeah, it's becoming mainstream now. But one of the main things they used to do was disabling the nuclear rockets. And apparently the reason for that is that they said that we don't understand the implications of detonating a nuclear device. They said that it's not just this reality that is being affected. Apparently, all the other dimensions are connected like an onion. So there are onion skins, one under another one, and there's another one. And apparently, if you do it on the top, it affects all the layers beneath. And they said, you think that you're detonating something in this reality, while the same thing happens in other realities that are placed in the same space and time. And they said, you don't have the mental capacity to understand how it works. And they said, just don't do it. You're not supposed to do it. So I think what you're saying makes perfect sense, that there's like a mechanism behind this reality that we access on psychedelics. And I'm always really happy when I see something in my reality that is a proof. Like synchronicity. And this is, I think, this is something that me and you we need to talk about, because this is something that validated my relationship with you. When we started talking, the first thing that happened, what was that? You sent me an email that arrived at 4:34 a.m.
Right.
That was the thing. And you didn't even know that, because you sent it at different time, right? We're in different time zones.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then the next thing was, I checked the distance between our cities where we live, and it's exactly 4,304 miles.
Right.
And there was something else. You sent me a picture. Because this is what people tell me. What happened to you when you started talking to me about 434? I think you had some synchronicities in your car.
I had several times that I would look at the clock and there it is, 434, or the mileage on the odometer, or the receipt. There was a receipt where I bought something and it was $4.30. And I would send you pictures every time it happened. I just said, sure.
It's funny because every time someone finds the channel, they come back to me and say, not only did I stopped watching your video at 4:34 p.m. a.m. whatever, but also I see this number all the time now. And I started taking screenshots of when people send me this. I have I don't know, maybe 100. I just, at some point I stopped because there were too many. But this is fascinating to me. What's your theory on synchronicity? What is it?
Well, I started getting really strong synchronicities with numbers right about the same time that I started doing the mushrooms. And for me, it was, 222, 555, 1111 every day, all day for years. And I couldn't really figure out what it meant at first. Now I think I have a better grasp of what it is. And when I get a synchronicity, I think about what am I doing at that moment, or what am I thinking at that moment.
Right.
And it's not necessarily that what I'm doing or thinking is right at that moment. It may be that I need to pay attention because
That's
going down
I'm
a
saying.
dark hole. Yeah, I might be going off track. But when I see a synchronicity, it's almost like I used to do a lot of deep woods backpacking in mountains and stuff, and on these trails. And sometimes you'd be on a trail for a long time and you don't see any trail markers. And then all of a sudden you'll come around the corner and see a blaze, like a big red, splotch of paint on a tree. And it reminds you that, oh, I'm on the right trail. I'm going the right way.
Yeah.
For me, the synchronicity reminds me either to get back on the trail or that I'm on it and keep going.
It's exactly that. And I remember, because for me, it's been more than 20 years. And I remember thinking, this can't be a coincidence. I understand once or twice, but I remember once sitting at an airport. I think I was flying back from Dublin, and there was a moment within 15 minutes where anywhere I would look, whether it was my email, because I had my laptop, or the clock, there was 4:34, and it was gone on for 15 minutes. And I just said, this is insane. There's no way that this, mathematically and logically speaking, it's not something you can explain. And obviously, this is when I started taking pictures and all that kind of stuff, and that all of that led to me starting the YouTube channel. Let's talk about you starting your own YouTube channel, because recently you've uploaded your first video. That's also one of the reasons why I decided to talk about this now. For anybody listening to it now, go to the video description. There's a link to Starpilot's YouTube channel, so please go to her account and subscribe. Also watch the videos. What's the story behind it? What are your plans? Tell us about this.
Well, basically, I didn't even think about doing this until the spaceships video, and I got so many comments back from people saying you should start your own YouTube channel. And so I'm like, well, okay, so I created one, but I didn't put anything on it for a while because I wanted to do something. If I was going to do anything at all, it was going to be a fresh experience, not some old stories. So I had to wait for the right time to actually do mushrooms again. But also, I was a little bit hesitant because I was a little bit afraid that maybe I'd said too much during the spaceships video and that they were going to kick my butt the next time. I really thought about it before the spaceships video, like, what am I going to say, and be careful with, am I saying too much? And then I realized after this last journey where they didn't care at all, they had no problem with it. And basically they told me, look, if you come back from this and you remember anything about the spaceships, that's fair game. We're not sending you home with any proprietary information, because when I go over there and I'm flying these things, I know everything about them like I built it myself. And if I could bring that back over here, oh my gosh, would that be cool? But they don't let me do that. They don't let me do that. They send me home with little crumbs. And so whatever I shared they're fine with. But I had this apprehension about doing that first video. And then when I measured my dosage and found out that it was a lot higher than normal, I had to psych myself up to do it. But I'm glad I did. And it turned out to be a great, great trip. And you listen and you'll hear all about that amazing night.
Yeah, this is what I hope to hear more about, because just to let you know, if people like what you're doing, they don't mind how long it is, whether you repeat yourself, they'll just appreciate that you're doing it. So from my experience, this is what it looks like. And I don't think you repeated yourself, because when I listened to this, and I was thinking, oh, you're going to describe the whole thing again. But I learned so much from it, and I just thought, this is great. You need to do more of it, because I really, really enjoyed it. So do you think you'll upload those trip reports more frequently, or what are your plans?
I do, yeah. I'm planning to do that, and regardless of how good or not good they are, because it's all important. It's all, it's just this exploratory stuff that we're doing here, in reporting back what we're seeing. And in the process of doing that, I think we're kind of mapping the psychedelic realm. It's sort of like, look, it's like back in the days of the exploring the new world with wood.
Exactly.
I see an island out there with a palm tree on it, and you see an island with a palm tree. Okay, let's put it on the map.
And you know how mad I am at myself for not recording my first trip? It was one of the most intensive experiences of my life, and I had no idea how significant it was. And most of the information that I use in my videos comes from this trip, but unfortunately, it comes from my memory. And my memory is really bad, and it's getting worse. And I've noticed recently that I start losing things. Like they're not as solid as they used to be. And I've realized how precious every trip report is. That's why I record everything, and then I send the report to people describing it with my own words, because I've noticed that if I don't do that, I'll forget it. Did you have that problem?
Yeah, absolutely. I never really thought, I mean, I might have jotted down some notes after trips in the past, but this last one, I literally got up the next morning and hit record and just started talking. And most of that was taken in one take on that. There was one part I had to go re-record again because something happened with the audio, but it was one take, 30 minutes of me compacting 8 hours of mushroom trip into 30 minutes. And that was when it worked the best. If I had waited a month or something and then tried to remember it based on notes, it would not have come out, I don't think, as genuine as it did the morning after, when it's all still fresh in your mind, like you just got back from, outer space.
Well, you're quite lucky that you can actually do it, because for me, it's a matter of seconds. The amount of information alone is so overwhelming that I know that if I don't record it live as it happens, then there's no way I'll ever remember it. And I get to a stage where I get so much information that I need to stop the actual contact with them. I make them wait for me to record it so that I can go back to the conversation. And I don't like that. I wish I could just lay down for 6 hours and just see the whole thing, experience the whole thing, and then record it. But there's no way I'll remember it. Some of the information is so important and so precious that I need to record it immediately.
I wonder if that's something like the ability to remember dreams. I wonder if that's something that you can train your mind to be able to remember, because because I mean, I remember I used to never be able to remember dreams. And then over time, like trying to, or through meditation, sometimes in meditation, I'll remember dreams that I forgot that I even had, that it comes back to me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember that dream now, but I forgot it at the time from like months ago.
Yeah. Then it comes back.
Maybe there's something that can be worked on, where your recall can be better, just like in remembering dreams.
I'm not really sure if it's really human body related, because sometimes I go so deep into another dimension, and I know it's deep because it takes me a long time to travel there. It takes me sometimes minutes just to go there through those machines and those big tunnels. And once I get there, it's usually when I need to get an answer from an entity. They take me with them to their dimension. I know the trip back, how long will it take me to get back to this reality, and it's the same amount of time. And during that time when I return, I meet other entities and other stuff happens, and this is when I forget everything. It is as if I was leaving all of this wealth of information in that reality. And I've noticed that it doesn't stay in my memory. It's like it's stored externally somewhere in another dimension. And there have been I know that other people said the same thing. There are things you learn that are so important that they change your life, and you cannot recall them. All you have left is the sensation of the importance, but that's all you have, because the rest stayed in that dimension, the doors to which are now closed. So that's the reason why I try to record everything immediately, and it becomes it's just going back and forth, stopping the trip, recording, and then going back to the trip. I really don't enjoy that. But yeah, hey, the things you don't do for your viewers, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that last trip that I had was the first time that I ever pulled my phone out and started recording, so I didn't lose the whole part about going down the black hole and when the trip started to turn bad. Once that was over, I had to record right away what had happened because I didn't want to lose that. And I'm pretty good at remembering in the morning, but that was so incredibly powerful that I made about a 6-minute recording of my thoughts right then on that. So, hey, if it works, do it.
Yeah, but so for future generations and everybody else's sake, I ask you to record everything from now on, because it's really important that we get all of this information. If it wasn't from my phone, there would be no videos. I just basically record everything that happens. But okay, going back to, we have a long list of things we were supposed to talk about, and we haven't even touched on the first subject yet. But this is great. But tell me, so what are your plans for your YouTube channel?
Basically, I'm just going to use it as a platform for sharing my experiences and for hearing back from other people, because I really, really enjoy when I get messages and emails from people where they've seen the same thing, and being able to connect with other people. That's one thing that's so great about what you've done with the 434 structure, is that you've allowed people to find the others, and that it's kind of a lonely existence when you do psychedelics and you can't really talk about it with anybody or your family, and now there's a community, and I've gotten some really, really good responses. Even I've gotten responses from other people that have flown these spaceships too. There's one girl out there who she knows exactly what I'm talking about, and she's been a pilot too on these things. So there's more of us out there, and we're not the only ones. And so, hey, let's find each other. So I think that's my plan for my channel. There's too many channels out there that are all kind of loopy crazy about my 9-gram mushroom trip and all this. I'm looking at this from more of a scientific,
but yeah, exactly,
exploratory point of view, spiritual point of view, and especially with the prevalence of research now into psychedelics as far as for the therapeutic and medicinal usage. I think that this has huge potential to explore and to benefit people. That there's a new awakening going on, and I think we're right at the beginning of it. This is a perfect time to be doing this.
I feel this great sense of mission, and I always say to everyone that you don't realize what we're doing here and how big it's gonna get. And well, this is the reason why I quit my job to do this. It's not because I know how big my channel will become, or no, I just know what's going on. I can see how important psychedelics are slowly starting to become, and how they slowly creep into the mainstream mind frame. But what I know is that what people like me and you know, what they don't know is how important they will be to them once they try them, because there's a 99% of population that has never had any contact, or even the slightest notion of something being in their environment that would allow them to, cure depression, to change their mindset, to all those things that they haven't even dreamt of. And now it's becoming mainstream, and people are slowly starting to realize that it's not all, the boogeyman, it's not bad. It's basically something that was delegalized for financial reasons. It's just, big pharma and a few other industries trying to prevent you from becoming a thinking, logically operating entity in this reality. So I'm always saying that this will become big, but not because of what we do. It's because we're riding this wave of human mind evolution, and we're just at the forefront of it. Because not many people are doing this. Like people like Shaman Oaks, me, Joe Rogan. There are people who try to wake up the rest, and they don't realize what they're actually doing, because it's gonna be huge. One day we're gonna realize that there's a whole new dimension where things are happening and we have access to it. And I think that will be the revolution that we're all waiting for.
Yeah, I think people are really searching right now, and they're really ready to wake up. A lot of people are, and they're looking for that way to do so. They've become disenchanted with society and politics and religion and everything, and they're just looking for they want to wake up. And but now's a good time to have videos like yours out there where you're telling people how to do this responsibly. How to ensure that they approach this psychedelic world in a way that's going to benefit them. You know, we were talking about bad trips and being irresponsible and things like that. This would be a good time to sort of repave the foundation of what people think these medicinal substances are, and get it away from the a stereotype of the 60s where this was, just a recreational drug.
Yeah.
Certainly not.
It's quite sad because recently I just watched some documentary where they were showing, I think it was some kind of an ancient Mexican tapestry or some sort of I don't know, it was a picture, and it was at least 2,000 years old. And on it they had, magic mushrooms and then shamans, how it works. And I was like, so we're thinking we're discovering America, and at the same time, there are those 2,000-year-old pictures that describe exactly what we're describing.
And the aliens or the entities, the drawings weren't that bad. I mean, actually, that was pretty good. The way they had them depicted on the walls, it was like that's really a primitive way of doing it. But unless you didn't have a graphic arts program on your computer to really make it good, but it was actually not a bad depiction of what they seem like.
Yeah, well, there's this theory that Bible was written on mushroom, and I think Joe Rogan talked about this, having somebody else on the podcast, and they actually showed a lot of proof that it's very likely that it happened. And
I agree.
There's a lot of symbolism in the Christian religion where it shows all those, I think, priests wearing mushroom hats. And it's not, by the way, it's not just Christianity. I had a conversation with someone recently about the Muslim religion, and there's this it's not a temple, it's a Muslim
minaret.
I don't know. This is the thing, I don't remember, but it's very famous, and it looks like from the inside of your mushroom trip. It's the colors, the shape. It's just the perfect depiction of what a mushroom trip looks like. And people started talking to me about, I think they're called jinns. There are these ghosts in the Muslim religion, and they are sometimes described as evil, sometimes as good. I know nothing about Islam and the Muslim religion, but people tell me a lot of this stuff, and it seems Muslim religion is more connected to the psychedelic dimension than Christianity is, even though Christianity seems to be completely created by magic mushrooms. I think if we were to search deeper, we would probably find a lot of connections in all human religions related to psychedelics.
I think you're totally correct, because if you look at some of the major world religions and you look at what they believe, I think all of them believe that there are things that exist beyond the realm of the human senses that you cannot see, cannot hear, and cannot perceive with human senses, but yet they are real. I think just about everybody agrees on that, whether they argue about the details or not. And all of the world religions, their foundations are on love and hope and faith. And is there a religion out there that teaches people to hate your neighbor and be a jerk? I don't think so.
Satanism.
Yeah, that one.
If it's a religion.
But all the major religions that tend to argue and create wars amongst themselves, they all believe the same core values, and they're arguing about administrative structures. And I think if there is a psychedelic connection or their basis in that, absolutely. Everybody knows that all these priests and shamans throughout the ages used substances in order to gain access to the spirit world. If somebody told me that, in the Old Testament that the priest that went up and behind the Holy of Holies. It wouldn't surprise me at all if there was some substance that he took to allow him, that we don't see that in the writing, but it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm really glad that I've noticed that humanity is going in two separate directions, and we're picking up speed. We're getting faster in our disassociation with each other. So basically, I've noticed the quotation mark humans, that I call them quote mark humans, they are getting not dumber, but basically they're losing contact with reality faster. Those are the people who I always use Kardashians as an example. If you watch Kardashians, you're gone. This is this type of people, and I've noticed that the materialism, the power tripping, all of this is getting worse in that part of society. Whereas spiritual people like us, we're discovering more, we're connecting quicker, and it seems like we're developing faster. So both those groups are trying to reach their destination. I mean, if those people have destinations, those who are lost, but it seems like we're evolving quickly now. And it worries me a little bit because there's not enough of us and there's a lot of them. And I know that people don't like when I make this distinction. I need to make a video about this, but it really feels like it. I mean, if you don't believe me what Machine Elves told me about humans and quotation mark humans, then look at the society as a whole. It really works like that. There's us and there's them, because you cannot wake up them. It's like a matrix. There's no way you can talk to them about changing their mindset. They're so scared and so close-minded. There's nothing you can do about this, to a point where they become an enemy. And this is something that worries me, because I thought that the awakening will be a collective thing for all of humanity, but it seems it's awakening for us, and the rest is just going deeper and deeper into their hellhole or wherever they're going.
Well, I think you're right about that, and that there are people right now that are waking up or are awake and can look back and see the other people that have not awoken. But I don't think necessarily they're all lost. I think that society has provided so many means of distraction between your social media and your phone and your TV, your cable, your Netflix, all this stuff, that it's like brought them into a trance, I think. And it's not that they can't be brought out of it. Some of them are gone. But I mean, I think that by and large, a lot of people are searching for something, and they're latching onto that because it's all that they have. They're latching onto the pop culture because they don't know there's anything else out there. But I think some of them, they have more potential than I mean, why do you think they call it programming when you watch television? I think
that's a very good point. I never thought of it. You're right. That means that you're programmable, which means that you can be reprogrammed. Yes, you're right.
Yes. And so let's say, I mean, not that the content's ever going to change on a television, but I think that people in their search for whatever they're searching for, and I think you can look around and say that in this society, in this world, everybody is searching for something because it feels like something's really wrong with the way we're going. They look to that because it's everywhere. This broadcasting is programming is everywhere. So they look to that for their answers, their entertainment, and their numbing. And I think if they had a choice, or if they were awakened to it, like, I mean, I didn't know anything about psychedelics. I mean, it just sort of came to me one day with the opportunity. But before that, I could have very easily slipped into that same, reality with them. But
you think that was a possibility ever?
No, I wouldn't have gone the whole pop culture thing, but I would have continued down the path of searching and feeling like, is this all there is? And just the depression. And there's so much of that out there that when I hear of people being depressed, I think there's somebody that wants to wake up. There's somebody that feels that something's wrong. They feel that this whole construct is screwed up, and they want to find the light. And so to me, hearing about all this depression and anxiety, it's like these are all these potential people that would benefit from this awakening.
Just a moment ago, I talked to somebody about something we just realized, that it feels like the world is a giant global work camp. So it's a labor camp where everybody's trained to work. That's the only thing you're supposed to do. There's an episode of Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty is one of my favorite references.
Me too.
where they inside of a battery and they go inside of another.
Yes.
But that's
I love that.
exactly how our
I love
world
that episode.
works. It is no exaggeration. That's exactly what everybody does here. Because we're talking about, look, if you have a problem with your foot, you go to a foot doctor, whoever that is. If you have problem with your heart, you go to a
Yeah.
cardiologist. You go to. They all have doctors, but when you have problems with your emotions, your feelings, there's no one for you. There's not a doctor you can go to. You can go to a shrink, but they'll just medicate you,
Right.
and that will be it. But when it comes to someone healing you or someone actually telling you what is wrong with you, there's not a person like that. And you spent 20 years in education, what you can call whatever it is. It's not education. It's basically just keeping you asleep. Um, but within those 20 years, there's not a single lesson or a lecture that will teach you how to deal with emotions, with planning your life logically. There's none of it. And when you look at the whole, you realize that all of this is a global work camp training. You're supposed to get ready to get your first job and become an obedient consumer. Simple
Right.
as that. And I think we need to wake up and realize that it is not 19th century. We don't work in Ford's manufacturing plant. We're beautiful, powerful human beings who need to start doing something to change the course of action. Because, as I said in my alien warning video, machine elves know about what's going on here, and they say that we're getting close to the edge. They said we're almost there and we don't have much time left. I don't know what they meant, whether they meant months or years. Whoever's interested in this, you should go and watch the alien warning video. But this is something that we should start thinking quickly, because it's getting worse and worse. I think the part of society that is not willing to be spiritual, they're making things worse. And I don't have a solution to everything, but I think if all of us were to start collectively working towards raising the vibrational frequency of this reality, we could change something. How do you feel about this?
No, absolutely. When you hear all this prevalence of like depression in adolescence and the things that these kids are going through at an earlier age that we never saw that kind of thing. When we were kids, not to the extent you see it. But you know where I think it comes from. Like you said, the society construct and these expectations that are put on people. When we're children, we just exist. We absorb the world. We look at things and enjoy things, and we just are. We are beings.
We were allowed to be children back then.
Right. And then suddenly somebody comes up to us one day and says, well, what are you going to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
And then there's this expectation of that what you are right now is not good enough and that you have to become something else.
Yeah.
Then they take that and they put a bunch of bricks on top of it and they say you have to get good grades and you have to go to this college and you have to make money and then you have to find somebody and have a family and then all these expectations. And by the way, you've got to do it by a certain age. And it's just, you can't do it. It feels like your head's going to explode with all this this pressure. And so you look at some poor kid that's 15 years old who's got the weight of the world literally on his shoulders. How do they cope with that?
Yeah.
And it does feel very hopeless when you say, is that it? Is that why I'm here to basically work for 40, 50 years and then die?
And
that was a big
my purpose, and he goes to test time, and he's so disappointed and depressed. That's exactly the same what you're talking about.
I like when the guy says he's like, my universe is used to power your car.
Yeah,
it's like
that's exactly that. I agree with you. There's one thing that Wayne Dyer, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Wayne Dyer, but he said that if you're supposed to be what you do, your job, then what happens when you lose your job?
Yep.
And I remember that was the moment when I realized that it was 10 years ago. It was like when people ask you, so you meet somebody and they go, oh, my name's John. And the next question is what? What do you do?
What do you do?
Yep. And you're like, really? Does it matter? Because I can tell you about how I feel about life and the universe, because that's important. I mean, what I do between 9 and 5, it doesn't really define me. But people don't have that mindset. And this is also the reason at some point where I started questioning my life. And I went, okay, so I cured my depression. Now I'm a completely different person. My job is actually a problem for me. So where do I go from here? And I decided there's no way I can pretend that it's okay for me to do what I do and then feel fine. I'm almost 40, and I spent the last 15 years just sitting in an air conditioning office under fluorescent light and just 8 hours with people I don't know, I don't want to know. And I was like, there's no way I can do this for the next 30 years. And by the way, there's no way I'm going to get there. I'm going to die halfway through it of a heart attack or some other nonsense that is, it's work related. And people do that. That's how people live their lives now. So it's you see, even because I always use my example because for me it was so scary when I quit my job. I was like, what do I do now? What do I tell people? Those are the things that happen in your head, inside of your head, and you're like, oh, I tell them I'm a YouTuber, or I organize meetings and I talk about aliens, and I'm like,
tell them you're a stay-at-home astronaut.
No, that's your job.
I know what you mean, though. I'm going through the same thing right now, where I just every day I get up and I'm like, I don't want to do this job. This is a complete waste of 8 hours of my day. I have so many other more important things that I want to work on and do that are meaningful. And I feel like, but I'm required to go do this job in order to make money, in order to keep the lights on and things like that, which is necessary. But it feels like if you actually have a job or a vocation that is something you want to do and something that's fulfilling, that's like a miracle. I know very few people. And it's like you spend your whole life doing this and you don't even get any enjoyment out of it, or very little. And
they say that you're not supposed to have a job because it means that you're doing something you don't like. And they say that if you do what you enjoy, you don't work a day in your life, because when you do what you do, it's not a job. And I've noticed this ever since I started working on my videos full time. And I think everybody know now that I make videos at least twice a week, and it's awesome. I work 12 to 16 hours a day. It's hard work, trust me. I know it's sitting in front of your computer, but it is hard work.
Oh, yeah.
But it doesn't feel like working. It's just doing things that I really like, that I'm good at. Yeah. It's such a huge difference. And the best thing, and this is, by the way, I'm advertising this now to everybody. Quit your jobs, take mushrooms, because yes. I'm so irresponsible. But this is such a difference when you finally stop lying to yourself, because it's such a... You're deceiving yourself. You're trying to make it work. And deep down, that this is not who you are. That you're missing something. That you're lost. And this huge discrepancy between what you are and what you're supposed to be is so toxic that I believe personally that all those heart attacks, all those diseases, they're not really work related. They're low frequency dissonance related. It's basically you trying to be somebody else. You pretending your whole life. Yeah. And sooner or later, you will pay for it. That's how I felt. And this is the reason why I quit my job. So, yeah, guys, everybody, quit your jobs.
No, I mean, I understand that, because I feel like with every mushroom trip that I do, the space between who I really am and who I have to appear to be in the world is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's getting harder and harder for me to put on the act and to play this role every day in front of everyone. And I'm looking for the opportunity to be able to just punch out of this job. And if there's a way that I could possibly do it and do the things I love to do, like my artwork, if I could do that, I absolutely would. I'm looking for a way to do it responsibly. I'd love to just, if there's a chance, absolutely, because I don't want to be in this soul-sucking job for 30 more years.
No, there's no way you'll be able to. This is the problem that people like me and you have, is that there's no way you can keep the mask on for so long. Because for me personally, the end of my office work was that the charade was over. Everybody knew that something's off. Everybody knew. As soon as 434 started, when it started growing, the shift in my attitude toward my work and everybody else was so drastic that they knew immediately that something's off. And I think this is the biggest problem, that I wasn't being rude or anything like that. I just didn't care anymore. I just knew that. I remember, I'm not sure if I talked to you about this, but I was in that meeting with a woman who was sitting in front of me. She was trying to talk to me about some KPI, some other nonsense. And I was sitting there just thinking, when will I get to get out of this place and go back to my laptop because there's 30,000 people waiting for my next video.
Right.
And that was the moment when I realized, like, what am I doing? This is nonsense. I'm talking to somebody about things that I don't even care, things that I don't want to do,
Yeah.
while pushing aside something so important that it collects thousands of viewers. And I'm like, what? This is nonsense. I'm lying to myself. I'm pretending I'm somebody I'm not. And I decided enough is enough. So I think if you have a chance, of course, as you said, needs to be responsible, because it took me a few months to, I was very lucky because I was picked up by YouTube algorithm, and I got to a point where enough people supported me to actually be able to get some savings. I'm not even halfway through having enough money, getting back to the financial level I was before with my job. But I know I'm getting there because I see every day, I'm looking at those subscribers. I see how many people come. And I know that what I'm doing has a meaning. For the first time in my life, I actually see a purpose in all of this. So I recommend, really, whoever can do it and has the possibility and opportunity, they should at least try. And I'm going to make a video about this, by the way.
Yeah, that's absolutely. I mean, because you come home from a long day at work and you feel like you don't even have the energy to do the things that you love.
Exactly.
And you're totally drained. And even on the weekends, I mean, you have 5 days of just killing yourself. And then you come home on the weekends and you're so tired that you don't have the creative energy to do the things you love. And that's where I'm at right now.
It's sad. It's actually
Yeah.
sad because you have only one life. Today I wrote down an idea for a video. It's called YOLO, but that's pretty much what it is. You only live once, and there is no way you'll ever get your time back. It's the most precious asset that you have very limited amount of. Everything else can be worked on, but your time, it's unforgivable. You lose a day, you'll never get it back. So that's the other thing. I read once this book. I don't remember who it was by. It was a nurse. I think it's called Wishes of the Dying. It was a nurse who was working with people who were terminally ill, and they were all talking about the same thing, what they regretted. And none of this was related to their job or money. Everything was about spending more time with their family, with their loved ones. I remember there were five points on that list, and none of it was about money or success or career. Everything was about family, loved ones, friends. Right. I remember that was a big eye opener. But
yeah, I doubt that anybody on their deathbed ever says, "I wish I'd bought that Mercedes," or "I wish that I'd gotten more overtime."
And that was her argument. That's what she said in that book. That is just basically, but that's how we live our lives, right? This is the fallacy of this consumptionism, and I don't even know how to call what we're doing at the moment. It's like we're on some sort of a treadmill that doesn't end, that doesn't go anywhere, but we're all doing it in autopilot. Right. And it doesn't have any purpose, but everybody's doing it because there's no actual reason for that anymore. So that's really interesting. Listen, we should at least talk about one thing on the list. So let's talk about your cat. Because that was something that I really I found it very intriguing. Do animals know when we're in contact with the other dimension? What do you think?
Absolutely, yes, they know. I have another cat, and he's sat with me on several trips too, just sitting on the couch. Now, what was interesting about the cat that I talked about in my video was that I don't really know him. He's a neighborhood cat that just sort of hangs around, and he's decided that he wants to come visit in the house, but he's not really my cat. So and then he's one of those that you can't really get close to. He's like a semi-feral type cat. And he's sort of warmed up a little bit to us. We still can't just touch him like a regular cat, but he just decided he was going to jump up and lay on me during the mushroom trip, which was bizarre. I've had experiences where during a trip, wild animals come and look in the window, like at the bedroom, because I have a low window in there, and it was like a raccoon or something just came up and looked in the window, and one of my cats went crazy and just went over there, and I heard this boom, and it was one of the cats hitting the window trying to get at this raccoon that was staring in there. Yeah. And like opossums, I get those, but they come around specifically when I'm doing mushrooms. So, like I said, there must be something in the air, something in the realm that the frequencies that they're on, where they're drawn to it. The same way that some of these lower vibrational frequency spirits are drawn to. They know something's going on in this location, and they start, coming in. I mean, I've seen in the house, all of a sudden, like bugs come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spiders. For me, spiders.
Spiders. I get these little like gecko lizard things that come out. And it's like, I'm not even surprised anymore when I'm on mushrooms. It's like, yeah, everybody, hi, hello. So.
But I've noticed the same thing. And also, just to let you know, there's thousands of people who have the same experiences. They all message me saying that, what do you know about animals? Because this and that. And they describe the same stories as you. So I started talking to Machinos about animals recently. It's the first time. It's because of people asking me. And yeah, I have some answers now. So they said, first of all, it's horrible what we're doing with animals. But they said, they promised that we'll talk more about this. So hopefully I'll get more answers. I've noticed ever since I was visited by the bee, the queen of the insect world. I'm uploading a video on this hopefully today. I've noticed that wasps and bees are drawn to me. They started flying around me every time I go somewhere, and they keep a distance, which is very unusual. They used to bump into me or would just land on me. Now they keep a distance, and when I walk, they're right next to me, and as if they were looking at me, and it feels like there's some sort of a connection, like there's a tiny notion of this mushroom connection that you get when you're tripping. So this is something that I've noticed, and I hate the way humans treat animals, because most of them, they treat them as if they were the only conscious ones, as if humans were the only ones with the consciousness. And I always say, what makes you feel that cows don't have consciousness? What makes you feel that they're less important only because they chew grass all day long and do nothing? And I always say, what if the cow is permanently connected metaphysically to the other dimension, and all the cow does is fuels its body with fuel, with grass, so that it can trip 24 hours a day. That's why it's still and it doesn't move. How would this idea change your understanding of the cow? Maybe cows are very important in other dimensions. Maybe they run the whole thing. How do you know? So I hope that people wake up and start realizing that animals are as important as us. And you're right, of course they know what's going on. We change the frequency and they can pick up on that, I believe.
Oh yeah, the cat will look right in my eyes. He looks me right in the eyes and he's like, "Oh, you're over here too."
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Exactly.
But you know what? Animals are, I feel they're and I have a lot of rescue animals that I deal with. They are a lot more grateful, and they are a lot more able to express gratitude than humans are.
Of course.
I've had animals that I've had to rescue that I've had to take for surgeries that they would have died if they hadn't gone, and they are so thankful, and so they come running to greet you, and it's like, how can you look at this and this cat that's kissing me all over my face and tell me that this doesn't have a consciousness, where he clearly is grateful for all that I did for him. And I mean, I feed him too, but this is after he's been fed. So
I agree. And it's a collective thing now, because everybody knows this. People started posting on Reddit about animals knowing that you're tripping, so it's going mainstream, which I'm really happy about. What should we do? I think we'll need to have another one of those, because there's a whole list of things we haven't even talked about.
No, we didn't get to talk about the bad trip or the
the time distortion and mushrooms. There was this question we had. You remember that we were supposed to remember from Clemens?
We should talk about that one. Yeah.
So he asked, what is the difference between how we take mushrooms, fasting, meditating? How much do you take? Where? And do you use lemon tech? So so tell us about your ritual.
Okay, for me, I start the prep for a mushroom trip about a week out, sometimes more. I eat light and healthy. I cut out any kind of, caffeine, alcohol, anything like that. It's almost like what you prep for with ayahuasca. I've never done ayahuasca, but I know people who have. And there's like a diet that you go on in preparation for that, where you sort of cleanse yourself. So I do that for about a week before, and then I prepare my mind all week long. I'm thinking about getting myself in the frame of mind where I'm receptive and I want to ask questions and heal, and I get my intentions in order. The day of, I'm assessing, is this a good day to do this? Up until the very moment I'm ready to back out, because everything has to be just right. And then I will burn some sage in the house. I always do the mushrooms with just, some orange juice. It's got some citrus in it. They say that makes the trip come on faster. I've noticed, yeah, maybe that does. But they say sometimes it makes it end quicker too. I haven't noticed that. My trip's about 8 hours long, so if that's making it end faster, that's fine with me. Because 8 hours to me, that's a day at work. I'm good with 8 hours. That's a long trip. So, I usually just eat lightly throughout if I have to, something light like crackers or, nothing heavy. And just try to, you don't want to eat so much that you're nauseous or anything like that. You want to just keep it real light. And I eat light throughout the day too. And then water. Drink the water throughout. Otherwise, you're going to wake up with a headache the next day if you're not drinking enough water.
You just made me feel like I'm so disrespectful toward mushrooms because I do none of it. So
really?
basically, I decided about taking mushrooms when I have access to them, sometimes within an hour. So,
oh wow!
For
need more of a flight plan.
Yeah, it's a bit, but of course I need to be in the right emotional state where I'm okay, where everything's good. Also, I need peace and quiet. I need an environment without any distractions, obviously. I agree. I think citrus fruit, I mean, like lemons and oranges, they do intensify the trip. I've noticed that it's better. I'm lucky because I don't really get like stomach sensations too much. Occasionally I do, but I'm fine. I like their taste, and I usually don't. Maybe because I take such small amounts. So I know that you take a lot, right? You take like
yeah, I mean, I take usually like a ground up spoonful, but this last one, it ended up being a little more than usual. And that was rough taking that. But the orange juice helps. But the thing is, I never drink orange juice ever, except when I'm eating mushrooms. So if I were to, be at breakfast or something and accidentally take a sip out of a glass of orange juice, I would just almost throw up just because I associate the taste with it so much now.
So I try to keep it like a ceremony type of a thing, but I try to make sure that it's not disrespectful like people do it during raves or they go to festivals. Maybe because I don't get hallucinations. If I did, maybe that would make sense. But all I do is take mushrooms and then lay down, go under a blanket, and off we go. There's visiting other dimensions, there's meditation, healing, all kinds of stuff happening. There's not much outside of me that is of interest when I'm on mushrooms. So the world inside is so crazy and so interesting that I don't need anything else. I went out, I think, twice in my life just to see what's happening outside. That was when I talked to trees. But yeah, that was, and I was told to go out. Actually, I didn't want to go out. I don't like that. So yeah, that's how I do it. But I think
I used to watch like a movie through the anxiety phase in the beginning with the come up. I would watch, anything to take my mind off, like Avatar, something that's just fantasy like, just to get my mind off the anxiety. And then I would know when it's time to turn it off. But now I'm sort of like, I don't listen to music or anything anymore. I just sit there and I want to feel the whole thing through. And then,
when I stop watching this, when I'm watching something waiting for the trip to happen, this is when things start to happen, I start to realize how ridiculous is what I'm watching at the moment.
Right.
Like, I can think whatever is nice, like a movie that I like, and I watch it, and at some point I goes, this is garbage. This is junk. What am I looking at? This makes no sense. These are actors, and it's all staged. Why am I watching? I'm like, oh, it started. So I switch it off, and then I lay down. Yeah. But I do that too. I agree with you.
But now what I've been doing is I've been just sort of talking to the mushrooms as they're coming on and discussing, here's where I'm at, here's what I'm feeling, and here's what I hope to gain from this tonight. And if you got plans that are not on my list, that's fine. And just reinforcing that. I think by doing that, you're going to minimize the chances of having a bad experience if you go in with that kind of preparation. But even so, trips can have dark phases to them, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad trip because it has a dark phase. I mean, if it were not for the dark phase of my last trip, the good parts of it would not have seemed as good by contrast. I mean, it would have been all sunshine, lollipops, and spaceships, but with the dark part of it, that made the entire trip just phenomenal with being able to contrast that.
This is something that we probably need to record another podcast on, because there's so much we would need to talk about. It's really a very, very deep subject, deep topic that we would need to touch on. But okay, this has been an hour and 10 minutes, so let's stop it here, because we can talk. There's still so many things on our list, and I think after this discussion we'll have more for next time. So thanks a lot for taking part in this. I'm really happy that we finally sat down together and discussed all of those things. I think it was a nice introduction to more of those discussions that we'll have in the future. I'm looking forward to more videos on your YouTube channel. Again, guys, look up Starpilot33 or just go to the video description. The link is there. Please subscribe to her account. Anything that you want to add to all of this?
I just want to thank you for having this podcast with me and this great conversation. And thank you for everything that you're doing and all the sacrifices you've made to be able to bring this to reality for everyone. And I'm really excited about where your plan for 434 is going. And I'm happy to be a part of it. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. That was very nice. So I wish you all the best, and we'll talk soon.
All righty.